everybody? HondaPro Jason here in California at Spoon Sports USA, and today I get to install my rigid collar and my stiff plate. So let's unbox it. These are the rigid collars. These up here, rigid collars are obviously mine because my name's on it. Grease, I'm guessing. Stickers. And, ooh. Rigid collars. Rigid collars. Instructions that we won't need, but they do include them. And then, step down here. A brochure. And I've seen this online, but I've never actually seen it. Ooh, yes. Nice. Oh, this is heavy. This is nice. Very cool. Let's put it in. What the heck is a rigid collar? Let me explain. Come on over for a minute. When you look at your bolts for your frame, your subframe up front here, I'll loosen this one up a little bit. In order to manufacture this easily, they make these holes nice and big. So they can put the engine in there, and if you guys have seen the video I did on the car being put together, you'll notice that the engine comes in from the bottom, and this is loose. So what happens is, even when this is tight, there's still play in there. So when you're driving down the road, there's a springing effect. So what the rigid collar does is the rigid collar is this piece here. And what you do is you take the rigid collar and you put it right on here. And then when you put this in, watch this. See how loose this is? The rigid collar goes inside there and makes this tight. And you put this on all the subframe bolts. So it's gonna be really, really good for the track and really good for the street as well. So we're gonna install all of those and the stiff plate. Check this thing out. This might look familiar. This is actually part Honda piece. Right back here, this piece right up here is Honda's original piece. I haven't touched this yet. And what Spoon did is Spoon took the original Honda piece and added a brace to it. So this is gonna go back here, and instead of just being this piece here, it's gonna add structural rigidity all the way across. That's gonna help a lot in turning, a lot in handling. It's gonna be great for the track and again for the street. So I'm gonna put some links below on more information about both of these, but right now, let's install them. Aaron, can you give me a hand?
Yeah, good. So the first thing we gotta do is lower this subframe a little bit.
Okay.
Loosen all your subframe bolts. Basically, you loosen one at a time and then thread them back in so they're hanging on by a few threads.
Okay.
And wow, looks like they really did take apart your entire car to paint it.
They took my entire car apart.
Because
Yes.
the paint is painted underneath all the suspension parts. So as you can tell, your subframe's starting to move.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so your subframe is essentially loose right now.
Okay.
Just to make sure all the bolts are in so it doesn't fall out.
Probably a good idea. Yeah, since we're standing under it.
As you can see, now it provides just enough clearance between the subframe and the body. So when you pull this bolt out, you can slide the rigid collar in right here and then put them in one at a time.
Okay.
Just like that. Let me get all the rigid collars.
Awesome. So as most of you guys know, I don't do a lot of work in my own car. I let the professionals do it. But this Spoon asked me to do to show how easy it is to do, so I'm gonna do a lot of this myself.
This essentially is an anti-seize grease.
Okay.
Because these are aluminum alloy and all these other parts are steel, this prevents galling and corrosion between two different metal materials.
Makes sense.
So you basically just put it all over.
The real reason why we have gloves on.
Exactly. And just smear it around. Both sides.
Okay.
Put a little more on this side.
If I ask you what it says on there, does it say grease?
It says rigid collar.
Does it really?
It does.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
Okay.
And it goes in that way, correct?
Yes. And then this is a funny thing. It's made in USA. So you can almost put the rigid collar in before the bolt goes in, and it'll just kind of sit in there. Basically just slide it in, and it'll just slot right into the subframe, and you'll feel it. The instructions are pretty clear on where they go. We could put a little bit of anti-seize on here just so the bolt goes in nice and smooth. But essentially, you can just put that on there, and it just slots right in. Probably not perfectly straight at the moment. As we bolt it up, everything will start aligning.
As long
So
as
you
it
can leave
gets-
it as is for now. Let's put a little bit of...
So, as you guys come on the other side where the light's gonna be better, I think. You guys saw with this, how much play was in there? Now look, nothing. It's completely solid. Once we tighten it up, it'll be totally solid. It makes a huge, it totally makes sense now that it's in the car exactly how these work.
So yeah, Jason, give that a couple it's this one.
Got it.
Give it a couple turns just so make sure it doesn't fall out. But as you can see, the rigid collar is a softer material, so it's conforming to the shape of that hole as you're threading it in.
Nice.
So
How far should I go in?
Just leave that for now,
Okay.
and then we'll go around and do all of them.
Awesome.
What the collars do is it will actually straighten your subframe so you get proper alignment. Because sometimes, these alignment guys, when they're doing your alignment, they'll say one side is slightly off than the other side.
Sure.
You can't get it
Happens a lot,
perfect,
yeah.
and then the threads might be slightly...
This is some of the reason why.
Yeah, and then what they teach you in alignment school is if you can't get proper alignment, they actually teach you to loosen the subframe and shift it. That's actually what they teach you in alignment school.
Got it.
So essentially, what this does is straighten up the subframe to the body, so everything is perfectly aligned. So it's a patented product by Spoon. It holds an international patent, a US patent.
They've used this all the way back in like the original NSXs, right?
No, so
When did it start?
I believe rigid collar started 2011 or 10.
Okay.
I believe. They make them for every single car in the.
So I've seen
there's
videos
200 or
putting-
300 applications.
Wow.
And the funny thing you say about NSX is the rigid collars for NSX are extremely, extremely small because the NSX is handmade. So the
Okay.
tolerances are very, very tight on them.
That makes sense.
But when you make them mass produced at a big factory, the tolerance is much larger because it's speed of manufacturing. But because the NSX is made handmade,
Right.
they're made slowly and by hand, your tolerances can be much tighter because a person can line things up much easier than robotics and large machinery.
Assembly line type stuff.
Assembly
Makes
line.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why the NSX handles so well because the tolerance is so tight on the car.
Ah, okay.
So they do make rigid collars for them, but when you see them, you're like,
That's it.
there's barely any material because the bolts the tolerances are already so tight.
Okay.
So the cars that have worse tolerances, the rigid collars are huge. You usually see these on more mass-produced cars. Civics are somewhere in the middle, but some of these domestic cars, they're really, really fat. You're a bodybuilder before.
Yeah, not like this. And it was a long time ago.
Basically, the torque specs are published in the manual, so just follow the instructions,
Okay.
and simple as that. That's it for rigid collar.
That's it, easy.
That's it.
What'd you think?
I think it's so easy HondaPro Jason can do it. I can't wait to drive it. So there you go. Let's do the stiff plate.
Let's do it.
When you go in the stiff plate's way easier, right?
Right, so we already took off those two braces.
Sure.
So basically just essentially stick it back on where it was. Because the stiff plate has a little more space here.
Okay.
On some of these parts, we include slightly longer bolts to accommodate it. And as you notice, these are the exact same bolts that Honda uses.
Okay.
The same grade and same coating material. So they'll look OEM. Yeah.
So there you go, like that.
Yeah, there you go. It's perfect. The stiff plate works kind of like a chassis brace. It stiffens up the chassis, but it doesn't help in the spring effect of the body.
That makes perfect sense.
So it's a little bit different. They're similar, but a little bit different in effect.
Okay.
So you can do both, or you can do one.
So the stiff plate is similar like a Type R.
It's exactly like the Type R. Yeah.
Got it.
So it just basically strengthens up weak parts of the chassis. So this is the original piece.
Okay. So as you can see, this original piece completely matches that. But instead of just having two of these, you have this whole brace in between it.
Essentially, take off all those bolts. It's pretty self-explanatory because
Yeah.
if you hold it up to the car, you'll see where it's bolted and you'll see that there's bolts there. So just take off the bolts that were there, and there you go. It's as simple as that.
It's real tight.
Yeah, that's okay. I think we're a little bit crooked right now because of this. But there it goes.
That's better. Okay.
It's double checking that you've torqued.
Okay.
So you mark the ones that you torqued.
Okay.
It's almost just a reminder.
Makes sense.
Because if you're touching it like that, you can remember, did I do this one? Did I do this one? Did I do this one?
Okay.
And if one's not marked, then who knows?
So if you guys are paying attention, we have all these rigid colors left after we did the front because these are actually for the rear. Okay, so these are not all the same.
Correct. So these four are for the rear four.
Okay.
The part that's towards the rear of the car. These four are for the ones that are for the two bolts that are near the front.
Okay.
And just like the front, each bolt has two. The one with the double-sided sandwiches between the subframe and the body, and the one that's single-sided goes
on the
between the
bolt.
bolt. Yeah.
Okay. So the big part's gonna go down inside here. Okay. A little bit of grease on there.
And then here is the bolt side. Look at that, I'm your
Awesome.
assistant now.
I like that. I know, don't get used to it.
Can you stop the other one? It's a little bit higher.
I see it. Right here, right?
Let me lower the car a little bit.
Okay.
That way,
You trying to say I'm short?
well,
I mean, okay.
it's pretty tall for me too. Clear?
Should be good. Okay, so this one's right here.
Yep.
This one here?
That's still pretty far away.
Okay.
What's a flashing yellow thing mean?
Probably something's dying soon.
You're almost done.
Yes.
Don't forget those 2 wires.
2 wires. They just push right in?
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Pushes in there. We just took these out of the way.
So you did the rear all by yourself.
I did the rear all by myself.
Great success!
Consolation prize.
Nice. Guys, that's the install. My first install, by the way. So as always, this time from Orange, California, I'm the Honda Pro. And now you're in the know. So driving it with the stiff brace and the rigid collar makes a big difference. I noticed it immediately when I went over the first set of railroad tracks. It was like I installed a Type R. I mean, you can totally tell. And it's way stiffer. It feels good. The car feels more planted on the ground. I really want to see what it's going to do on a track, but just for the street so far, I'm really, really impressed. It feels more flat. Cool, huh? Back from my road trip. This says rigid collar, by the way, or rigid collar, depending on what. Anyway, I'm back from, nice hat, by the way. Thanks, Spoon. I'm back from my road trip. My road trip was California, Chicago, Chicago, New York, New York, Connecticut, Connecticut, North Carolina, Florida, Chicago. So I had plenty of time to drive the car with the rigid collar and the stiff brace. And I knew immediately that I felt the difference, but then driving it that long, the car felt just more solid all the way around. Turns, bumps, little things on the highway. Every time I hit a little ridge, the car just felt more solid. So I'm really happy with it. I'm excited to get it on the track because that's where you're really going to feel a big difference. So Spoon, you guys rock. Thank you so much for the helping me with the products. That was the very first actual thing I did to my own car beyond like cleaning it, you know? So you guys rock. Thanks for everything, and I'll talk to you guys soon.